Like clockwork, we're here every Monday afternoon for the Championship Check-In podcast with myself, Benjamin Bloom, and EFL pundit extraordinaire and striker Sam Parkin. Sam, how goes?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, busy few days. Still not completely over Huddersfield QPR. I think it's scarred him, bless him. But he was thrilled. He was thrilled when I told him on Sunday morning, I think it was. Sid, QPR won yesterday. Did they, Dad? Did they? So there's something there. There's something to grab hold of. I didn't tell him it was against currently in dire straits Blackburn Rovers, but it's 3 points, eh?
Hold that thought, Sam, for maybe one of our regular segments later on in the show. We're going to go into Parkin's pick, which means I need to go in to the results from our most recent round 30 in the Championship. Although, because of FA Cup stuff, Sam, not all teams have completed 30 games. But after those couple of COVID years, this table is in no way as disorganized as what we've seen in recent times. So I'll take it. On Friday night, Bristol City 0, Leeds 1. Leeds went into second temporarily and on to 2 points per game. Into the Saturday fixtures, it was Blackburn 1, QPR 2, as you've just alluded to, Sam. Out of nowhere, Huddersfield 4, Sheffield Wednesday 0. It was Hull 1, Millwall 0. Norwich 2, Coventry 1. Preston 3, Ipswich 2 means that Rotherham 0, Southampton 2 makes the overtake that we've been talking about for seemingly about 6 weeks now complete. Stoke 0, Leicester 5. The Foxes cruising in at Stoke. It was Swansea 0, Plymouth 1. Plymouth finally win an away game. So, to Cardiff City, it was Watford 0, Cardiff 1, West Brom 1, Birmingham 0. And in the derby that's not a derby, that we don't call a derby, it was Middlesbrough 1, Sunderland 1. Those are our results. Let's get in to Parkin's pick. Where are we going this week, Sam? And are there any honourable mentions? I'm thinking possibly Huddersfield.
Yeah, that was incredible, wasn't it? A little bit calamitous from the Sheffield Wednesday perspective.
How many one-on-ones were there?
Yeah, it was weird and equally frustrating, I would imagine, for like Huddersfield fans and Darren Moore and his staff. You know, like Sorba Thomas should be producing like that regularly, shouldn't he? And seeing Karoma as well, the quality he's got. So I'm sure they're scratching their heads this morning, as I was really, because you think they've actually got some decent forward players, and Neil Warnock was able to kind of ease that out of them, wasn't he, on more a regular basis. So yeah, amazing win for them. But I think Sheffield Wednesday defensively, there's big issues there, which we'll come on to, I think, later in the show. So with a certain degree of balance, the topic of conversation I want to focus on is the top three, but more pertinently, that one automatic position that's up for grabs. And now, therefore, is it a straight battle between the two relegated sides, Southampton and Leeds?
Feels a bit boring, this, because it feels like we've been setting this up for weeks and weeks and weeks. And
mate, you're the perfect person to counter this argument. And that's exactly what I want from you in around about 2 minutes' time. I want you to give the reasons as to why Ipswich will bounce back from the disappointment of Deepdale. And I'm not cut and dry that this is over. It's a conversational starter, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. First of all, Sam, our premise, which has been our premise for a long time, is that Leicester are going to be champions. They've come out of the transfer window. We mentioned the possibility of Dewsbury Hall being sold. That didn't happen. Since we last spoke, Sam, they've got 6 more points. They've got 8 more goals. They're now 11 points clear of second. And we've joked about these projections. The projection's 110 points, Sam. There's only 16 games to play now. So it is coming into focus This whole discussion is based on the premise that Leicester are champions elect. Are you okay with that as a starting point?
Did my best to create a little bit of conversation about 3 weeks ago. I think it was prior to Leicester Ipswich, but even given that the spoils were shared, is that a phrase? I haven't said that for a while, but you get my drift. Even though that was a draw, I just thought Leicester kind of played in about third gear. I thought it was so easy for him in the first half, and Ipswich fully warranted their point, on the balance of the play and the chances and everything else. So I'm not diminishing that achievement, but I just thought Leicester, even in that 1-1 draw, just looked class. And it was interesting hearing the kind of noise coming out of the support after the previous game, that not everyone was completely enamored with Maresca's style of play. That was fascinating, really, because when I've seen them, invariably it's been away from home. They've been exceptional and really exciting as well. I know at home sometimes when it's you're playing against a deep set defence and it can be frustrating. It can be a little bit sideways. I get that because, there's a little bit of that. When you're a player, you don't want to force the ball. You don't want to go for that kind of through the eye of a needle pass because you risk giving it away. So I get that. And that can be frustrating for the home supporters, but absolutely a 5-0 away from home against a team who can defend, can't they, Stoke? They can shut out. That was a sensational win at the weekend, which just clarifies in my mind that they're going to romp to the title.
So this is the first time this season we've had everybody at 2 points per game. I suspect to have 4 teams at 2 points per game at this point in the season. I don't know if there's any statisticians watching or listening. I doubt that.
Fev, go on, son.
I doubt this has ever happened before, to have so many teams on the 2 points per game. So talk to me first about Southampton and about Leeds. I mean, we're rinse repeat for Southampton. We set this up a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? And said, look, the next couple of games, this run is looking to continue. Rotherham, bottom of the league, 21 undefeated now. But Leeds United have won 5 games in a row now. They move on to 2 points per game. How are you feeling about these two particularly? Just pit them against one another, because by all logical financial and squad reasons, that is the conversation, even though you want me to try and give you some hope in 2 minutes' time.
I think it's really difficult to separate them, to make a case for one over the other. Obviously, Southampton have been on this incredible run over a longer period of time. I think they've got superb depth. I think they've been relatively fortunate with injuries, if memory serves me right. And they've added...
it's just Stewart they've been unlucky with, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, where would they be with him in the ranks as well? How many more points would they have accumulated? But to add Brooks as well, in the window, he very nearly created a goal for Adam Armstrong at the weekend. What I'm kind of getting towards is, if Southampton lost a few big players, would they be able to deal with that better than Leeds United? I think there's an argument for that. Leeds fans absolutely in the comments tell me that I'm completely wrong. And I know at the moment they're doing it without Dan James and Pascal. Help me out here. Strupp. Those two are out, aren't they? And I know it's only short term, possibly. And they've had to just rejig it, haven't they? With Ampadu dropping in, Gruever's come in and done really well. Wasn't across the game, particularly against Bristol City, but I know they were really good value for the win. So they've been able to cover for those absences pretty well. If anything, they may be looking superior at the moment with those kind of little alterations. But I don't know. It just feels to me that Southampton have just got maybe a little bit more depth, but I'm scratching around here because I think Leeds' 11 is outstanding. I really do. That deficiency on the road obviously was what was separating them between them and the top clubs in the second half of the season, it looks, for all intents and purposes, that's going to be arrested. So absolutely, I can't call who's going to make it between the two. I wouldn't be surprised whoever finishes second. Southampton have to go to the 4 in the top 5, if that makes sense, because they're obviously in there away from home.
I think that's the key part of the discussion. What you're now on to, the who's got to play who.
I'm glad I got there then. So that could have a bearing on it. I mean, like I said, I was scratching around for reasoning, and it's just when I look at some of those Leeds United substitutes in comparison to Southampton, I think, could they walk in and play a dozen games? And at the moment, you've got like Creswell there, you've got like Shackleton there, Byram. This is off the top of my head. Obviously, Pirro, Ruta, Bamford. That's a lovely problem for them to have. But yeah, absolutely, it's worth highlighting those Southampton fixtures and saying again, I think I said it on last week's podcast, the only victory against a team over 14th away from home was at Hull City, a late winner, wasn't it, from his name, Fraser. So yeah, we don't really know how Southampton are going to serve up in those top games. Another point I just wanted to finally make on Southampton, obviously an amazing run, and you wouldn't expect it to be too different from this. There's been 8 clean sheets in this run, but they've only conceded over 1 goal in 1 fixture in a 2-2 draw at Preston.
In the 21 games?
In the 21 games. That's the only
0 or 1?
0 or 1, yeah. So I just thought, we spoke so much early part of the season about the attacking prowess and where everyone was going to fit in and them looking shaky defensively. Can't really angle that against him. And that's not, a plus in their column and a negative across in Leeds' column, because they're equally as good defensively. But I just think that was worth highlighting about Southampton, having married both sides of the game.
So you want me to be positive about Ipswich? Well, I mean, I think we've set it out, haven't we? That the momentum is with Leeds and Southampton, isn't it? The financial power, the squad power is with Leeds and Southampton. You'd say maybe fixture-wise, you'd rather be Ipswich or Leeds than Southampton. But in terms of admirable, helpful fixtures, that doesn't put Ipswich over Leeds, does it? Because Leeds have got home fixtures, having played the difficult games away in the first half of the season. I can make lots of excuses for Ipswich, Sam. We can say they had the hard run of games, and then when the hard run of games came and they drew against QPR and Stoke, they had injuries and suspensions then with Morsey out and Hurst out and Burgess away and all of that good stuff. You can say it was a bit unlucky at Preston that the first goal's deflected, the second goal's offside, and they lose their heads playing out from the back again from the third one. So you can say all of those things, but the results speak for themselves, don't they, Sam? You can only have one period in a season of winning once in 8 games, can't you? And then you sort of look ahead at it, and it does stack up all right after the West Brom game, because West Brom is never easy with Corberon. But then look, Millwall, Swansea, Rotherham, Birmingham, Plymouth, Bristol City, Cardiff, Sheffield Wednesday, Blackburn. That's a long run of, quote, winnable games there. So Kiefer Moore straight in and looks like he's stepped in, obviously scored 2 goals on debut. So if I take all the logic out and we can go for an intangible like momentum, if I'm allowed to, and didn't we say, Sam, for 18 months, 12 months, let me rephrase that, if Ipswich were in a coin flip game, they won it, didn't they? Whereas at the moment, when Ipswich are in a coin flip game, right now they're losing it. So that would be my argument, whereas all logic says it's between Southampton and Leeds. Have you got a counter?
No, I just think if you look back over the last couple of months or whatever it's been, the last 8 games, they're incredibly difficult fixtures that Ipswich have had. I don't know if we spoke a lot on that. I think they were our cause for concern at one point because of the fixtures, maybe very early on in this run. But if you look at the games that they've lost, it's only really Saturday that was quite unexpected, although I think I did tip Preston. But you know what I mean. There's no travesty in losing at Leeds. Is that the only other defeat in this run? Obviously, the cup defeat against Maidstone, but the Norwich draw wasn't there. They won the game against
the two horrible ones are drawing to QPR and Stoke, because they're the fixtures where you're playing teams that are, lower down in the table. Where if one of those games was a win, we know all this would be different, and they'd be in second. But when you see the overtake get made and the momentum and everything else I've mentioned, you can't fail to kind of not necessarily come to this conclusion, but at least raise it as a conversation point, like you were suggesting.
I suppose it's just whether they can rally themselves to go on another incredible run like they did, in the early part of the season. I think, absolutely valid point to highlight the new strikers. That if Kiefer Moore's going to be out there from the off, and we spoke about the potential of bringing in new strikers last week, it does give Ipswich the option. I think you have to with Kiefer Moore. He's a bit like kind of Matt Smith in that regard, that you can't really play down the sides for him because he won't get there. So you either use him as a plan B.
So Sam, I think we saw it already. Sorry to interrupt. All the cutbacks to Chaplin are now going to be little dinks to the back post, aren't they?
I mean, that ball in from Leif Davis. I mean, if there could ever be, I think it was Leif Davis, if there could ever be a more perfect delivery with that little bit of kind of backspin on it, curling away from the goalkeeper and defender. So they can play a little bit more direct. I don't know if Kieran McKenna will want to do that, but Hladky's been getting himself into increasing difficulties playing out. That seems to have been a bit of a feature of the last few weeks. So it does give them that option, and interesting to see where Al-Hamadi fits in. And I saw something in one of the local papers about the amount of goals being conceded early. And I don't know if it completely runs true in terms of being that problematic, because I think there was 5 in a row during a sequence early part of the season, but they are conceding.
Like first shot the opponents had as well. Not even early goals. It was first shot.
Yeah, so it seems like that's kind of subsided over the last few weeks, but I think they've still conceded the most in the opening 15 minutes of games in the entire division. To flip it, only Leicester have scored more in the last 15 minutes, but it's just whether, I suppose, you can sustain that and keep having that bounce back ability, to coin Ian Dowie. So I suppose Burgess is going to be back, isn't he?
He will be.
I'd imagine he'll have landed by now, so he could be involved in the next game, because that'll be all the Australian boys on their way home, if I've done my research properly. And I suppose the manager would likely reintroduce him after the I was going to say horror show is a bit harsh, but Edmonton's first half the other day, it's quite likely that he'll be reintroduced, I would imagine. So I think there's things to be positive about, but I think the reality is a lot of it's going to be down to his ability to get them functioning and getting them going again. Sometimes it's as simple as that, really. Can you get them on a roll again?
Brilliant stuff, Sam. I'm going to close out this segment by saying and I'll put my Ipswich hat down to the side. Look, we're either going to get a potential really great head-to-head between Leeds and Southampton, potentially ending on the last day of the season with Leeds versus Southampton, which could be just sensational. Or we get that plus another team. So
I know where my money would be then. I know where it would go. You couldn't back against Leeds, could you, last day of the season against Southampton? Could you imagine?
It could be incredible. We'll wrap that up there, but get your views down there in the comments, and we're going to move on, Sam, to Worldie of the Week. Can I quote you, Sam? Not a vintage week this week. What are your thoughts on this week's contenders, honourable mentions, and have we got a winner?
Mate, I think that's a little bit harsh. I think there's a few,
because I love great goals.
I think there was a few kind of that probably didn't get the credit or won't get the credit because they weren't, scooting past 3 players outside the box and whipping one in the stanch. But I think there were some brilliant goals. Obviously, Science at Norwich is becoming a regular.
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. Was it Anfield last week? Yeah. Yeah. He's got. Do you know what I loved about that goal as well? Obviously, the importance of it, but Barnes' hold up. And I suppose we're going to. Say it again.
I didn't even notice. That's where we got you on.
Oh
eh?
no, just like feeling the centre half touch, perfect little set for him on his preferred foot. You know, just that difference that him and Sargent would have made over the lean 3 or 4 month period or whatever it's been. So yeah, that was a really good goal. For the team kind of essence, you'd highlight Whittaker, wouldn't you? For the
That's one of the
clever,
best set plays I've seen. That was outstanding, that goal, wasn't it?
and I love the pace he got on it as well. It's really difficult. He thumped that. I think it's a side foot as well, but absolutely thumped it. It flew into the net. So he's definitely one. And then two.
Can we just give him one more shout, Sam? He's now joint first season up with Plymouth. I know he played with Swansea and Derby before. 16 goals, joint top scorer in the league. Whittaker, amazing.
Yeah, amazing, and absolutely so vital that he stuck about after getting linked. I think I might have been off to Lazio. It was Lazio, wasn't it? That would have done me. That would have done me for 3 years. Absolutely, mid-20s. Plot up in a square in Rome with an espresso. Lovely. Two similar goals I just wanted to mention, and don't tell me off. I won't give anything away. But Marcus Force, what a touch.
Feet.
What a touch and what a finish.
Yeah.
But similarly, Philogene as well. Crashed off the bar, touch to sort it out, to set it for the left foot. So very similar, amazing ability showcased by those two. But we're going to go for, because a bit of a combination of everything I've spoken about, Josh Bowler at Watford for Cardiff.
Yeah, talk to me about the goal, and then I'm really interested in the player, really, because I remember with Blackpool, he was absolutely tearing it up. He went to Forest and sort of got lost in the shuffle, but on his day, he's a bit of a cheat code in this division, isn't he?
Did he go at the end of August, if memory serves me right, or did he go in the January window?
He went at August, and then they sent him straight to Mr. Marianakis's other club in Greece, didn't they, on loan?
Yeah, the reason
then he came back on loan to Blackpool, and it was all broken then, wasn't it?
The reason I said it is because I saw him at QPR for Blackpool really early on one season, and he was amazing. He was kind of carrying that Blackpool team. And we've not really seen it. He's like amongst that collection of kind of good forward players that I spoke of quite early in this season that Cardiff had accumulated, that I thought would probably see them do quite well this year. And they have been doing well, but I think they've been so erratic, haven't they? And the forward players would definitely fall into that category. So really good seeing him producing. Bit of a signature goal for him, really. I mean, you could probably play about 10 from his spell at Blackpool. That would be carbon copies of this, cutting in from the right. Lovely feet, wasn't it? Great control. There's a little touch with the outside of the left foot to set up the shooting opportunity. And probably from almost the identical spot of which Wes Burns scored his wonder goal for Ipswich. However, his was the old Trivella. Yeah. His was the old Trivella, and this was a left foot kind of curler. But in terms of starting it 3 or 4 yards outside the post and bending it back into the stanchion, it was a beautiful angle for the viewer at home. Yeah, great goal, and hopefully the start of maybe a more consistent period for the Bluebirds.
Well, you flagged them up a couple of weeks back now when we got those quotes from Errol Ballou. So they did go in the window. Turnbull, we think, is sort of 1.5-2 million quid. Horvath and Suanda were permanents. Phillips and Jeju, Wilson, Esbrand as well on loan. Is Ballou, has he got what he wanted? Did his comments work?
Oh, I think so, and some. Yeah, I'd be pretty enthused, would you not, if you were a Cardiff fan? Because you think of a couple of them in there. I mean, Ugbo's not really been pulling up any trees after a promising start. Jeju is battle hardened in the Championship. Had a good record at Bristol City. He's about a 1 in 3 man, is he not? If memory serves me right, but it gives you a bit more than that physically. And like I said, he's played loads of games at Championship level. I don't think Panzo was playing, so Phillips in there looks a good one. And Turnbull, you look at I mean, it's a bit like when obviously when I was playing down here, I didn't really cast too many eyes at the SPL. Then I'm up there and it's all consuming for 3 years. And now I'm back down here. It's so difficult to be across the Scottish leagues. Now I'm covering the EFL, but I mean, he's played a lot of games. I think he came from Motherwell initially to Celtic and played a lot of games, and he's scored and assisted on loads of goals as well. So he looks to be, quite a savvy signing as well. And I think they've got the luxury of welcoming back O'Dowda and Aaron Ramsey soon as well. So
Trend
things
up.
100% looking up. And
Yeah.
I think we'd agree he looks like a talented coach. So they could have a really good second half of the season. It's just, if you ask me to name the most consistent team without looking at the run of victories and defeats or whatever this season, I'd probably say Cardiff. I think they had a good run maybe September time, but other than that, it's just been win one week, draw a couple, lose one. There's just been no rhythm to their play. So I think a really good window, and I'd be astonished if the fans aren't quite optimistic.
From one set of optimistic fans to our cause for concern. Right, what's going on here then, Sam? We need to talk about Blackburn. Worst team in the league since the start of December. 1 win in 11, 5 points in 11 games. So underneath 0.5 points per game for a fair chunk. Adam Wharton sold. You can argue that as good or bad, depending on your outlook in terms of, raising money from a youngster or losing quality from your team. John Dull Thomason told by his club that he's not speaking to the media the day after deadline day. And he then reveals after that he offered to leave the previous summer with the problems with Venky's getting money out of India to fund the club. And when a manager's kind of cat on a hot tin roof trying to get out is never a good thing. And just ridiculously, and I don't do football admin, I don't understand, but I'm sure people have paid lots of money to not make paperwork errors. And it sounds like 2 years running in January, they've not been able to get Lewis O'Brien done last year. And this lad, Duncan McGuire, from MLS, from Orlando City. And then throw in, they lose at home to QPR as well. What do you make of this? This feels like 8 different strands to a not very good month for Rovers.
A bit of a mess, and a bit of a mess that's kind of gathering more rubbish. There you go. It seems to be gathering momentum, doesn't it? And more noise. I saw some stuff on social media over the weekend. So the fans clearly aren't happy, and understandably so. I mean, they've conceded the most goals in the division. Let's not forget that. And you'd think with some of the football they play going the other way and some of the results they've had that it would possibly be mitigating circumstances. It's not, I'm afraid. They're conceding the most shots on average in the division. I think their XG against is only worsened by Rotherham. So I don't think this is a surprise to the people that watch Blackburn every week. I think there's probably a lack of pace, I think, in the team defensively now. I know McFadden's come in. He's not going to arrest that issue, but
he'll offer really good leadership, though, won't he?
Yeah, I do love McFadden, and that was my next point. Yeah, the leadership, the players that they've lost, and when you've got such a youthful team, that's quite naive at times. I think the feast and famine element of the results, that considering that they never draw any games, shows you that there's a lack of game management, a lack of game understanding, that probably goes with it as well. So when you take out, help me here, Travis, that you lot have nicked, Buckley was going well, wasn't he, for a period last year? Brereton Diaz being the most obvious one. Dak, if we're going back a few seasons.
Brockwell.
Yeah, and then obviously Wharton, young lad, don't get me wrong, but he probably leads with the way that he plays. Your teammates are probably looking at him and thinking he can handle a ball. We can give him the ball in any scenario and he'll keep it for us. So I think it's a product of that. And what you were talking about with the manager, I suppose he just felt that he was on the right path in the summer and just needed to be backed and needed to be able to keep hold of his players and probably add a few more quality ones in areas where they desperately needed them, and they would have been probably threatening the playoffs again this year. So it's probably a product of that. And saying all that, they've got an opportunity to bring in a bit of experience in the next few weeks with McFadden and Fleck to be the two obvious ones who will bring that average age up and hopefully solidify them in the Championship, which I'm sure they're probably likely to do. But it's a bit of a mess at the moment. And when I'm talking about all these different departments, the collective's not going to be great, is it? And I think you could go through units of the team at the moment, apart from Smodix. I think he's still the highest percentage of goals at an individual club in the Championship, 38%. Where would they be without him? Goalkeepers aren't good enough. Said that, over the last 2 months now. All these goals that have been shipped and all these defeats, and I stand by that. Couldn't have done anything about the 2 at the weekend, but that's been a problem which has not been resolved in the window either. So heat on owners, which is not a new thing. Heat on the director of football.
They can't lose the manager now, can they? They can't. That's going to be chaos if he goes, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say they've just had quite a concise kind of identity under him.
Agreed.
It's not garnering results, but it would be a complete change of tack now, wouldn't it, to go for a kind of firefighter? But you look at the table now, and we're quite bold to say it was going to be 3 from 4 a few weeks ago. Now I'm looking at all those teams on 33 points, with QPR 7 points from 3 games. All of a sudden, could have an incredible battle on our hands.
Wow, yeah, and that's the beauty of doing this. We're like scientists, Sam. We actually enjoy being wrong when we make prognostications, because it gives you more things to theorize about, then, doesn't it?
And you don't want to come on here and go, it's the Championship. Anyone could go down. 8 points separating 5th from 16th. You don't want to come on here really and say, "Cool, they're in really bad nick. They could go down. I fancy them to get dragged in," but you don't want to be talking about half the division. Otherwise, you're never making an opinion.
Amen. Speaking of half the division, let's talk about the playoff chase as we go to Meltdown Moment. Right, we never ever like criticizing individual players. It's not really our style, but it allows us into a conversation with the chasing pack outside the playoffs, Sam. And the Meltdown Moment, bit of a Butterfingers moment by Thomas Glover in goal for Middlesbrough, and a bit of a silly tackle at a key moment. Both these errors came in key moments in games by Liam Kitchen of Coventry. That's the kind of meltdown moment per se. So talk to me about those 2 key moments within these results, and just your general thoughts, and I'll bring the table up for you in a sec, on the chase outside of the top 6.
Yeah, I mean, as it stands today, as we sit here, I don't know what your cutoff would be, and just to contradict exactly what I just said a few moments ago, but you kind of look at the table now and you think Norwich are getting their act together. Is that result for Preston enough to put them back in the forefront of your mind and my mind? Probably not. Is probably my kind of take on Preston North End after that win over Ipswich. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I think that was a massive goal for Norwich. I think they're 3 wins from 4 now. Again, I thought it was just emphasising how much Barnes and Sargent have probably been missed. The emergence of Science as well, throw into that to complement how good Jonathan Rowe's been. So that was a massive goal.
Coventry, and Sam, the opponent, Coventry, have been the best team in that area of the table, trying to achieve what all these teams have been doing over 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And it came in the week when Mark Robins, kind of the national media, I think, has woken up to the fact that Mark Robins is potentially going to do it again, get a team into the playoffs when he never or rarely gets mentioned for bigger jobs. So he's been kind of doing the rounds this week, which is fully warranted. And I'm always pleased, a little bit surprised, but he always gives the credit to Adi Vivas, the coach that I know, his first team coach, and Dennis Lawrence, he was speaking of as well the other day on 5 Live. And I just think when you look at some of the management teams in the division and some of the approaches, whether it be a head coach, a foreign head coach, or whether it be, an old school type setup, I think they've just got such a great balance. like a brilliant balance. You know, Robbins, who comes to life on a match day, who's brilliant with the press. I mean, he's had to be the last few weeks, hasn't he, when there's been quite a lot going on off the pitch. Works really well with the difficulties at boardroom level and what have you. And then he can probably take a bit of a back step a few days a week and trust that Adi Vivash is tactically so modern in his thinking. I think I said it a few weeks ago, a little bit of a trendsetter. I'd say Coventry have been a little bit of a trendsetter in some of the tactics. Think of that box midfield that got them so much success coming up from League One and continuing in the Championship last year. The way they deployed Hamer and Gyökeres last year, and again this year to tweak the system mid-season, I think has been a bit of a masterstroke. So, yeah, that was a tough one for them to take. I think you're being a bit harsh, mate, on Kitchen. I thought it was a poor first touch from Sargent because he could have got away on his right foot when he's played through. I think it was Kenny McLean with a pass. So his first touch is poor, takes him in towards the defender, but it tempts Kitchen to go for that sliding challenge. And then Sargent is so sharp and so quick when he gets moving, he's just able to get a toe on the ball. So I thought it was a challenge that he had to make, really. And I am probably of the opinion that a red card's a little bit harsh there, believe it or not.
I know what you mean. We have this discussion a lot about somebody doing this thing, and compare that, for example, to someone deliberately chopping someone down to stop a counter attack when it's going to be a 3-on-3. I know exactly your point, but as soon as he goes in there, and Sir Alex used to say, "Trust your goalkeeper" as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I've commentated on a few games this weekend that like that, where Dan Burn on Ogbene, I can go there because Ogbene is obviously an EFL stalwart, or was. Yeah, trust your defenders, your covering defenders, and trust your goalkeeper, and say to the attacking player, right, okay, you've got beyond me. Have you got the quality? There's still a long way to go. Have you got the quality to find that pass or find that finish?
Especially easy in the first hour of a game, per se. I know Kitchings was a bit later than that, but yeah, I think we agree on that, Sam.
Yeah, I'm arguing with the rules here. I'm arguing with a book. I'm not arguing with you. I just think sometimes it was such a genuine attempt, to make the sliding challenge. And if Sargent was Ashley Barnes, Kitchen makes the clearance. It's just because Sargent is really good, when he opens his legs up. So yeah, that was a great result for Norwich. And yeah, I still don't think, obviously they're purring, but 3 wins from 4 after all the upheaval is great going.
Just really quickly, Sam, on Middlesbrough Sunderland, someone in my watch along in the comments made a really cut through all the noise and said, this performance from both sides exemplifies maybe why neither of them will get in, because you've got Middlesbrough, who in the second half were kind of dominant and then didn't get the win. And you've got Sunderland and it's fits and starts. And if you shut down Jack Clark, do you shut them down? Is that commenter right on my stream?
Yeah, I can understand it. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's kind of obvious flaws, isn't there, in both teams' makeups at the moment. Yeah, I think from a Middlesbrough perspective, they'll be really pleased to get to the end of the Asia Cup. Albeit they'll have their players back like Burgess, won't they? So I don't know why I've turned into an expert on that subject, but I think they're getting 3 players back. No, 2 players from Asia Cup, 2 Aussies, and Senny Dieng, who I don't think's featured. I think I'm right in saying. I think I heard that. So there's the potential problem with the goalkeeper arrested straight away, and yeah, he wasn't great in those Chelsea games. He got away with it in the first game, if memory serves me right, even though he let a few slip. Palmer had didn't have his shooting boots on. So yeah, that was a bad mistake. I don't know if Sunderland are going to be able to soldier on and continue to pick up points, without really having that proper goal threat, outside of Clark. And Roberts returned, did he not? I think he did.
He came off the bench, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, my feelings towards those two when they're on it in tandem. They're kind of Willock and Chair-esque, aren't they, in the northeast? So, and I just think, yeah, Middlesbrough will need the return of those players. And they've clearly been really really affected by the injuries to Jones and to Latte Lath, and now Rodgers moving on as well. So quite a lot going on there as well. So they'll probably need to get the players back from the Asia Cup, settle down, hopefully get those injuries back. But it's looking like a tall order, I would say. It's looking like a tall order for Middlesbrough, and it's just, I suppose, how much they're rocked by that defeat to Chelsea as well. I mean, a lot of their energy and focus would have been going on those games, especially after
100%. A draw away
the win
from
at home.
Wembley. Yeah,
especially after the win at home. So, is there that, a bit like Kieran McKenna? Is there that ability to refocus the mind, to block out all the external, and to get motoring again in the league? And yeah, I would say it's looking doubtful for Middlesbrough at the moment, but you never know.
We have looked back, Sam. We're going to look ahead. And if you look above Sam's head, we'll see if we can point in the right place. We are sponsored by Match Bingo for our
straight in. There you go.
Tremendous. If you're listening on audio, you must watch Sam attempt to point at the Match Bingo logo on the YouTube video every week. Great fun. And great fun. Let's get into our mouth-watering match-up. Right, let me give you these fixtures for this coming round then. Sam, on Sheffield Wednesday. On Friday, Sheffield Wednesday v Birmingham. By the way, you can play all of these championship fixtures, all 12 of them on Match Bingo across the weekend. It's Ipswich West Brom is your lunchtime kickoff on Saturday. We've got Blackburn Stoke, Cardiff Preston, Hull Swansea. It's Leeds Rotherham, Borough versus Bristol City. We've got QPR Norwich, Southampton versus Huddersfield, Sunderland Plymouth, Watford versus Leicester. And if I flip the page over on Sunday, it is Coventry versus Millwall. Sam, what are your thoughts?
Do you want my big game now, straight off the bat?
Do it.
Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham.
It's going to be an interesting one. This kicks off the weekend, and there's a bit of a sense of a crisis needing to be averted in sort of both places, isn't there? Sheffield Wednesday, we were really high on, weren't we? Especially through December with those 6 victories, but 1 point in the last 4. And Birmingham, okay, they got the win, didn't they, at Stoke, but then back-to-back defeats since then. And you sort of mentioned the 3 from 4 that we were suggesting at the bottom of the table a couple of weeks ago. All of a sudden, the likes of Birmingham and Stoke and Blackburn could be sucked in. So what's your take on this one, and how do you see it? Don't give me a prediction. That's for another show later in the week. But how do you see it shaking out down the bottom, and what sort of a tone is this fixture on a Friday night going to set?
Yeah, I think there'll be kind of tension, won't they, amongst those squads and clubs that are just above the drop zone. I don't know. It's felt like things are just going against Sheffield Wednesday at the moment, not in terms of luck, but they just seem to have been the side that's been showing the most signs of life, I suppose, over quite a longish period. And then it seems to just be diminishing. And I don't know, it's difficult to pinpoint exactly where it is. A bit like Blackburn. I see deficiencies in a lot of the units at the moment. I know he's changed goalkeeper, hasn't he? If we start at the back, just got
a young kid in there now, hasn't he?
Yeah. I don't know if he was necessarily at fault for. I think he was at fault for one of the goals, wasn't he? The one that he came steaming out for and got bypassed by Karoma, wasn't it? So I don't really understand that one. I spoke about.
It was the loan guy. It was James Beadle who was in. Where did he come in from on loan? Sorry, because they played a youngster in the cup. Forgive me, I'm getting 2 different players.
I am as well. Glad you're here.
Yeah, Brighton. In on loan from Brighton, Beadle.
Okay. So yeah, still a change in that department. I've spoken a lot about, I suppose, the necessity to get a kind of third body in midfield, and I think he's gone away from that as well, which leaves them a little bit exposed. Not sure about the kind of defensive attributes of the midfield players. There's a continuing absence of Lee Gregory, and Smith was reintroduced at the weekend, so it's all a bit all over the place, really. And obviously to lose that game, it was a critical game against a relegation rival, means that they have to respond. But I was speaking to people bizarrely at the Sheffield United game the other day, some people that work within the local media, and they were just saying, to echo what I just said, he still seems to have the unanimous support of everyone, which is a great thing. And over a longer period, I'm sure he can be successful. But there just seems to be a number of areas. I mean, I didn't even really understand Byers being let go the last day of the window or two. I think he's someone that could play in that mid.
This time last season, the failure to get automatic was put down to him being absent, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's an option, isn't he, in that midfield three that I talk of. So yeah, all of a sudden this becomes a really big game. They need to arrest this recent malaise against Birmingham, who, I wouldn't be too downbeat on them. I think there's definite signs of improvement in terms of the speed with the ball, the quality of the passing. I definitely think it's improved. They've obviously had to change goalkeeper as well. I think Etheridge is in there now after Ruddy got injured and they weren't able to bring someone in. So there's a change in that department. Obviously, Dizell's there now, Pritchard's there now, and I couldn't not see the team at the weekend and just think it looks very Sunderland-esque, looking at kind of four.
Just looking at the front six, Sam: Sunjic, Dizell, Miyoshi, Pritchard, Dembele, and Stansfield. I mean, if that clicks, it's beautiful, but it's not what you call gritty, is it? No offense to any players in there.
No, the front four, I'm sure when they're at it, that could be a sight to behold. But I think we know, they're not amongst the lowest scorers in the division, but they've never been free scoring Birmingham. So I think that will continue to be an issue. And I suppose it's up to Tony Mowbray to make them a little bit more free scoring. I was going to say to marry the defensive with the attacking mould. And I think in time he'll do that, because I've spoken about him being a nice kind of in-between type of coach, manager who is pragmatic enough because he was a defender and's got the experience, but also really enjoys freeing up the front players. So I'm sure they'll be looking for that, and they need to improve their strike rate, improve their goal getting, and I'm sure they're going to be fine under Mowbray. But yeah, this is a big one.
Looking good, isn't it? Let's dive straight in with our player to watch for the forthcoming round. So, Sam, we get to talk about a player who we have liked talking about a lot, but I also want you to talk about what I rated as a 5-star January transfer window from Hull City.
Even though they let my mate Twiney go, yeah? Or
yeah.
he vacated the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going Jaden Philogene, aren't we? Again, I think we've done him before, have we not? He's certainly got goal of the week.
He's great, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's amazing. And sorry to harp on about this, but I watched him in pre-season for Villa, and I covered a few of the Chelsea games on the American tour, and found myself going down a rabbit hole a few nights and watching the games. And he was involved, and I think he scored. He was playing in some of the games. He was kind of the one like anomaly. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of all like the established players, and he was getting a bit of a run. I thought, oh, hello, because I'd watched him
spending a ton on Morgan Rogers from Middlesbrough.
Well, that's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is bizarre. How much did he go for, Philogene? It was good money, wasn't it? But still.
I think it's 5-6 million.
Yeah.
But they've spent more, and I know it's mainly add-ons, isn't it, for Rogers, but it's still a big chunk up front. Anyway, carry on.
That's a really valid point, and it's not to say that I don't like Morgan Rogers, because I've been I've been championing him this season. He just happened to have one of his best games when I commentated on him for Sky against Preston. But no, Philogene's got a lot. I think he's got real athleticism. I've spoken about him looking like he's filled out. Looks like he spent a lot of time in the gym over the last year, because when he was on loan at Cardiff, I thought he was not lightweight, but he looks like a real muscular presence now. And he's got amazing ability. I think good awareness, good final pass. You know, the statistics back that up. Not sure if I've got it in front of me. I think he's about 12 goal involvements now, which is a pretty good return considering he didn't kick a ball for a month or so.
7 goals, 5 assists. You bang on.
And again, I looked at it early part of the season. He's like rattling in so many attempts. I mean, I think he's about 4 shots per game or just thereabouts. So he is having incredible influence on games. And, you know, as you say now, he's got, an incredible support cast. I don't know. There's the striker, the lack of maybe a top quality striker ruin
Perhaps.
your theory here.
Yeah, perhaps. Where's Delap? Is he coming back anytime soon? Because what we're talking about is
that's a good point, mate. Yeah, Delap's pretty good at that level.
Who's bossing it this season? Carvalho inside of him, who was incredible for Fulham, and Zaruri, who scored 100 points with Burnley last season. And okay, it's easy for us to sit here and say the names of good players in a row. You'll know way better than me. It's far more difficult to get the chemistry and get them to click. But I just think that when we're looking at the top of the table, and you sort of mentioned, well, in the automatic race, Ipswich needed to do something, and Southampton, okay, Brooks and Rothwell. But if you look in that top half of the table, who moved the needle? I think Carvalho and Zaruri certainly does that, doesn't it?
Yeah, if I'll just focus on those two quickly. I can't remember exactly what I would have been saying, but Carvalho was just he was an absolute joy, wasn't he, when he was at Fulham having that purple patch? And it's one of life's great mysteries at the moment for me. And I wouldn't suggest, and I'd be lying if I said I follow Burnley with a fine tooth comb. Is that a phrase? Fine tooth comb?
I'll take it.
But I just can't believe, when you consider what Benson and Zaruri produced last year in the Championship with Burnley, why those two have been such peripheral figures this year. It just doesn't. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And obviously, I'm not across it. I'm not on the training ground, and I haven't been watching all their games. But it's just very, very odd that they've not been able to
add in
have an
Sam
impact
as well. Ryan Giles, who we mentioned every time we talked about what Middlesbrough had lost this season, he's in on loan. And forgive me, I know nothing about Ivor Pandur, who's apparently come for 2 million euros a keeper, and another Turkish lad, an attacking midfielder. But we know Mr. Iluchali's can be a bit eccentric, but I think they're proper backing Rossini here, aren't they?
Yeah, and there's no gamble associated to bringing in two of the arguably best flair players, number 10s, wire players from the Championship in the last 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, he's gone and got 2 absolute gems there who, for my money, should be probably around the first team squad in the Premier League and getting minutes. So amazing signings, and they've got an unbelievable run of games now. 3 games anyway. Sorry, Swansea, Rotherham, Huddersfield. Next 3, and then I think it gets a little bit tougher. But Coventry's, that said, are quite nice as well over the next few weeks. So those 2, if you're talking about the 2, Coventry who have had the momentum and Hull have really gone for it in the window, I think the next few weeks are going to get better for them.
Very much so. Is it going to get better for me though, Sam? Because it's quiz time. Let's play the week that was. Right. Last week, Fev said I gave you too much help. I don't think I give you too much help. I think you don't give me enough help. So I think that's more a kind of look at your selfishness, Sam, compared to my Nobel Prize winning levels of gratitude each week. But with that being said, you are battering me here. He gave us the score lines, actually, didn't he? Let me just get my Twitter up. You're 5 points up. You're 14 and a half. Against my 9.5. Would you like to ask or be asked first, Sam?
I'd like to be asked first, please.
Okay. I will ask away. So thank you as ever to Fev. Fev's Football Analytics. Follow him on Twitter X. I never call Twitter X. I'm just going to keep calling it Twitter. Everyone knows what I mean, don't they? Yeah, at Fev's Football over there. Right. A simple one this week for Sam, says Fev. In the weekend fixtures, Friday to Sunday, did the home team or away team score more goals in the first half, or was it a draw? I'll read that again so you can have a little think about it, Sam. Think about some high-scoring fixtures at the weekend, wasn't there? In the weekend's fixtures, Friday to Sunday, did the home team or away team score more goals in the first half, or was it a draw? You got 1 in 3 chance if you just guess.
Home or away team?
I can see a game with 4 goals, a game with 5 goals, and a game with 5 goals.
Well, Preston got the 3 in the first half, right?
All in the first half.
Okay. But Leicester and Southampton both scored twice, maybe 3. I'm going to go for the away.
Your logic has added up nicely. And we talked about Huddersfield banging in the goals in the second half, didn't we? Answer, away team. And so it was 6-4. So the home team scored 4 in the first half. The away team scored 6. So you've got your point.
Across the whole...
just the first half. Across the whole division. Yeah,
that's amazing, isn't it?
Not going to question Fev's numbers. So you've got your point, Sam. So the best I can do is draw. Have you got a question for me?
Yeah, simple one for you this week, Ben. You'll be surprised to hear, mate. In the weekend's fixtures,
that, hasn't he?
Friday to Sunday, did the home team or away team score more goals in the second half, or was it a draw? So I'm looking for, was it a home or was it away team that scored more goals?
It's got to be away, hasn't it? We've mentioned the Huddersfield goals flying in. Ipswich got 2 back, didn't they? Leicester scored the majority of their goals in the second half. Surely it's the away team scored more goals in the second half. This for the draw, Sam.
Even though Huddersfield scored 4 home goals.
Oh, Huddersfield were at home.
They were. Don't let me sway you. I mean, stick to your guns. You did some good workings out there.
I've got to stick to it, haven't I? Am I right?
I'll give you the point, mate. Yeah, 10 away goals to 9 home goals.
Why did I think Huddersfield were away from home for some reason? Idiot.
I agreed with you when you said that in my question a few moments ago.
That I'm an idiot?
No, well, I don't know what you were talking about, to be honest. I was just nodding away.
Oh, dear. There we go. That was the week that was, and that was the podcast that was the latest episode of the Championship Check-In. We really appreciate all of your feedback and all of you listening. Get your comments in on YouTube. Get subscribing as well. Follow Sam on Twitter, me on Twitter. And if you do listen on audio, which we know a lot of people do, we appreciate the hell out of you, but make sure you hit a 5-star review. Last word from you, Sam?
Have a good week, everyone. Can't think what's going on this week, but some tasty looking games at the weekend. So go well.